The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network. Welcome to the LangerCast with Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers. And now, here's Andrew and Jerry.
Well, third time is the charm this morning. Hi, everybody. This is the LangerCast. I'm Andrew Langer.
Jerry Rogers.
And we are coming to you live from our respective studios. I'm down here in the LangerCast studios in beautiful Williamsburg, Virginia, while my broadcast partner, Jerry, on the, I guess he's on the left side of the, no, the right side of the screen. My right, your left. No, my left, your right.
I'm right there.
Your side of the screen. He is from the beautiful Blue House Studios in the People's Republic of Montgomery County, Maryland. Good morning, Jerry.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. Now that we've gotten it all worked out, Jerry had to. This podcast has been a long time coming. We tried recording it yesterday, but snafus at the Capitol Hill Bunker Studios prevented us from doing so. So we're coming to you separately and sort of working it all out. Recording licenses are now paid. Everybody's intellectual property rights are satisfied, and so now we're here. We're all raring to go, and a great show we have for you today, don't we?
We do indeed. You know what? I'm looking at you here on the video.
Yes.
And do you remember the Star Trek episode when Kirk and Spock went to a planet? And it had become like Nazi Germany.
Of course, patterns of course.
Right, the Prime Directive one.
Yes.
And the leader was a Star Trek guy who they drugged up.
Yeah, John. John. It's not John Galt, but it's something along those lines.
But anyway, remember when he spoke?
Yes.
He had the microphone right in front of his face, so you could see his lips move.
I cannot see my face. Well, I can move over like this, but I think the audio quality gets a little compromised, don't you?
Hey, listen, I by the way, neither here nor there, but I did finally, I watched the last episode of Star Trek Enterprise.
Yes.
And I was very disappointed.
No, it's a great episode.
Because of what happened to Trip.
Yes, of course.
I like the whole concept.
Actually, you're going to have to refresh my memory. I don't remember what happened to Trip.
Trip died.
No, what?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's not good.
But however, outside of Star Trek canon, guess what?
What?
There is outside of the official canon, though, the story.
Are you going to Star Trek fan fiction between Trip and what's her name?
T'Pol.
T'Pol, yes.
So outside of canon, the story is that he didn't really die.
No,
he faked his death and entered into essentially the Starfleet Command's like CIA.
Yeah, of course, Starfleet.
And he and T'Pol actually marry and go off and live. And so I'm hoping when they relaunch this series, which they should, by the way, I hope it's years in the future and Trip is gonna out himself from the Starfleet CIA.
So are these in books or is this online fan fiction?
This is online fan fiction.
Okay. All right. Okay. So
I'm really not that pathetic. I'm really not that pathetic. But I do like Star Trek.
They were books. So we got a great show for you today. Beyond, we may actually touch a little bit on Star Wars, but we're going to be talking about, and it's not. Oh, good Lord! It's not Britt McHenry. It's great. Now I got to go back and look again. But we're going to be talking about this situation in Arlington with this ESPN sportscaster, and actually tying it into our overarching theme of crony capitalism.
Right. Predatory towing.
Britt, what?
Predatory towing.
Predatory towing and crony capitalism, and how that all relates. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Iran and the Corker deal, and what an abomination it actually turned out to be. This resolution that was voted on last week that we all thought was some great thing Well, it turns out if you peel it back a little bit, it really is not a great deal. In fact, it's just plain awful.
It's turning the Constitution on its head.
Yes, and then we're gonna introduce a new segment, a weekly segment, Hillary Watch, and I've got a great theme for you, Jerry. That it goes beyond what we were discussing yesterday.
Well, I'm very excited. And also, the thing is too is there's lots to talk about, not just the Hillary update today. But, because her campaign is still in the first couple or 3 days,
yes,
it's very interesting what she's, again, I'll tease it. I'll show the video camera here, since we're on the line now.
Yes, excellent.
But what's passed is prologue. And if you can you read that, Andrew? It says, is hell to pay?
Yes, it does.
This is a book from the 90s, written by Barbara Olson, edited by my wife, Erica Rogers, at Regnery Publishing. And, what's passed is prologue. What we're seeing happening right now is what we saw in the 90s, and there's a whole generation who do not know Hillary outside of the last, say, 8 years.
What's really great, Jerry, is I can actually nod now off microphone, and it actually makes sense, when I don't say anything. Hey, I almost pulled Highway to Hell by AC/DC in tribute to Barbara Olson's book.
Yeah,
but I decided against it. I figured let's not tempt fate that way.
And of course, out of respect for those who have passed on, Barbara Olson, of course, died on 9/11.
She did.
In the plane that crashed into the Pentagon.
And I actually wept. That was very upsetting.
So God rest her soul.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't know about you. We had a great weekend over here. As you all know, celebrating Madeline's 13th birthday today.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of wild. Janice is away, so it's been a little more melancholy, but just unbelievable that Maddie's 13.
13, yeah. I saw her picture on Facebook this morning, and you have beautiful daughters.
Yes.
You honestly have absolutely gorgeous daughters.
As do you, my friend. As do you.
Thank you.
But
and guess what today is also?
Ian Kahn's birthday?
No, it is Colleen, my sister's birthday.
Excellent.
So happy birthday to Colleen. Of course, she was a guest on the show not that long ago.
Yes, she was. See, now I've pulled it up. Now I can actually see you again. So this is good because the music's off. That is the one great snafu in all of this. In this Rube Goldberg system that we have set up to provide you with some video content as well as audio content is anyway we've had to come and do it a number of different ways. I sent back the video camera that I got last week because it just didn't work. So now we're trying this using a Skype recorder. We've got another way to do it when we're actually together. Not that you need to know the intricate technical details. Actually, a couple of really quick programming notes. Obviously, we're doing this today. We may do a show early next week. We're still sort of talking about that. And then we may be live from Radio Row at Right Online on May 1st in Washington, D.C. That is we're working on that one. That's coming up. It's so funny, Jerry, because I didn't realize, in part and parcel of all this. Actually, let me step back. First off, introduce the kids to Empire Strikes Back over the weekend. Have you had a chance to see that Star Wars trailer?
The new one, yeah, I've seen it.
What'd you think?
Look, I love Harrison Ford, period, and anything he's in. I'm not a big, look, I like Star Wars, but I'm a Star Trek guy, and the first three movies, which are now the prequels.
Yes.
I love. The second set of three movies, not so much.
No, which were the prequels. No, and it's so fun.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Those are the.
So you have the head for knowing.
Well,
yes, the prequels I didn't like as much as I like the originals.
It's interesting because apparently there's a proper way to watch them now, so that it all makes a little bit more sense. You watch Star Wars Chapter 4, the original, first, like the original Star Wars. Then you watch Empire Strikes Back. Then you go back and you watch episodes 1, 2, and 3 to get the backstory right. So what happens is at the end of Empire, Darth Vader is revealed as Luke's father.
Right.
We find out that there is another Skywalker, that Yoda says this. And then you go back and you find out, you get it all filled in as to how Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. And then the epilogue is episode 6, Return of the Jedi. And apparently it makes more sense, and you can actually skip around. There are cuts out there that are renegade cuts that eliminate all of Jar Jar Binks and eliminate the bulk of Episode 2. Anyway, there's a way to watch it so that it's better. I don't know.
I'm too busy reading non-canon Star Trek backstories. How am I going to find time to watch the 6 Star Trek movies?
Well, I'll watch. I think we watched Empire. We're going to probably watch Jedi at some point. But anyway, with this whole Ride Online thing coming up, I called a buddy of mine because I'm going to stay overnight on the 1st, and trying to figure out if we're going to do a Ben's Chili Bowl lunch. And then let me ding that. Ben's Chili Bowl. And I said, well, what's opening up on May 1st? Maybe we should get a group of guys together to go to the movies. And he goes, well, Avengers: Age of Ultron opens up, and all of a sudden,
oh yes, ding that.
Yes, all right, there you go. But sad trumpet for me because I had promised Madeline and Abigail, but mostly Madeline because she's a huge Avengers fan. I promised Madeline that I would take her to the Avengers on opening night, and realized that I couldn't do that, and I was not a happy camper. So I'm going to take them on May 2nd. Already have the tickets because you got to get those in advance. But Age of Ultron opens up next week, so we will have that conversation probably up in New York. Also, so Jerry and I tried to do the show yesterday. Showed up at the Capitol Hill bunker. Found the Capitol Hill bunker occupied, and apparently our reservation was never taken, but had a lovely conversation with Robin, the manager of the establishment that we've been using, who is going to hook us up in the future, Jerry, with free drinks and the ability to really reserve our space in advance. So that's a good thing. But as a result, Jerry and I had the opportunity to sit down and do some planning and forecasting for Institute for Liberty and associated entities, and we got some good stuff coming up.
Big plans.
Yeah, I mean, really trying to look ahead at where things are going politically and policy-wise, and the issues, and how we can be more proactive. Because that's important. So stay tuned to all that. I think that's a good thing. Hey, Jerry, we got good music on today's show. I think you're going to like it. Do you know this one? Any idea?
Not yet.
All right, hold on.
Who is it?
This is a little-known song from the Fabulous Thunderbirds. You know, the guys who did Tough Enough?
Yeah.
This is called Scratch My Back. So tell you what, Jerry, let's take a break. Set this up. When we come back, you want to talk ESPN? Let's do that first.
All right, very good.
All right, this is the LangerCast. We will be right back.
The LangerCast will be back after this.
Yeah, so-called experts can talk the talk when it comes to sports entertainment, but can they actually walk the walk? My name is Vince Russo, and with 23 years in the wrestling business, I won't just walk it and talk it. I'll tell you exactly what you want to know as it pertains to everything that goes on behind the curtain in the business of professional wrestling. Look, I know these guys. They talk to me, and now they will be talking to you. Uncensored, unscripted, and totally uncontrollable. But Vince Russo's new channel, The Brand, is so much more than just a show about two guys battling it out in their undies. It's a show about pop culture, my obsession with Rihanna, nostalgia, Batman 66, Kiss, Yoo-Hoo, life, spirituality, and family. Yes, I will tell you firsthand why mine is so freaking nuts. Hey, I didn't ask to be born Italian. Vince Russo's The Brand. It's all things to all people, and it's coming to the Realm Network.
And now, more of the LangerCast with Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers.
Some of y'all never I've been down south too much. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this so that you understand what I'm talking about.
Jerry, this one's got a long intro.
Hey, so you couldn't see what I just did.
No, I couldn't. Sorry, hold on.
Looks something like a turnip green.
Hey, listen to this one.
Everybody call it poke salad. Poke salad. Used to know a girl lived down there and she'd go out in the evenings and pick her a mess of it.
This is a great song, man, called Poke Salad Annie by Tony Joe White. Elvis did a cover of it, in fact. You remember that one? Have you ever heard that?
My Elvis?
Your Elvis.
No, I gotta look out. I have to look in my my repertoire of Elvis.
Yeah, Polk Salad Annie, P-O-L-K, sometimes spelled P-O-K-E. And
right.
actually, Elvis almost did a word-for-word verbatim recitation of Tony Joe White's introduction on this one.
What is it? Poke what?
Polk Salad, P-O-L-K salad.
Got it.
Yeah, it's
Poke Salad Annie.
Polk Salad Annie, exactly.
I got it. Oh, here he is.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, for whatever reason on Sirius XM yesterday, 60s on 6 was doing almost a Southern Gothic. There's a series of songs that sort of came out of the same era, which are like almost Faulkner-esque in how they tell stories about people. So you got this one, Polk Salad Annie. You've got, oh good Lord, Bobby Joe Gentry, Ode to Billy Joe. You know that one, obviously.
Yeah.
Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. You also have Nicky Hokey, which is along these same lines. Very sort of Gothic stories. Anyway, I like this one. I heard it yesterday again, and I wanted to include it in the repertoire. So, yeah, all sorts of stuff going on in the news. This was one of the biggest stories. Her name, Jerry, is Britt McHenry. And it hit the news. I think everybody knows it by now. But it wasn't exactly a rave-out, right? Would you say? I wouldn't call it a rave-out, would you?
Her response?
Her response.
No, I think, look, here's the thing. She was nasty, and she was rude, but we can't hear what the attendant is saying. So, does the attendant say something like, you rich girl, and she responds by saying, you fat girl? Like, it was a one-sided, we heard one side of that conversation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, some of our friends, and I don't want to quote him personally because it was a sort of an offline conversation, but, one of our friends got very upset about this and saw that she shouldn't have reacted the way she did. Maybe she shouldn't have. But, Jerry, you've dealt with – here, let me set the scenario, everybody. Arlington, Virginia. I don't know about other municipalities in Virginia. Obviously, everybody knows about the horror stories about sort of D.C. parking. But in Virginia, or in Arlington County specifically, and Arlington's not just a city, it's a county, they have this weird relationship with parking lots that essentially, okay, if you are on private property, and though I think this may have been on city property, but if you're on...
Wasn't it the parking lot for it was a Chinese... She had gone to a Chinese food restaurant.
Yes.
She had enjoyed some... she had a Chinese chicken. She enjoyed some adult beverages, and I'm just going to make a guess here, and she took a cab home or what? Did not drive herself home.
Whatever, and there was apparently warning about... There was warning about parking overnight. I don't know how prominent that signage was.
Well, there was a sign that apparently said, it didn't say, again, what do I know? I didn't see the sign.
All right.
My understanding is there was a sign just requesting do not park overnight.
Let me take it a step further. Really, it doesn't matter where you are in Arlington. The way the law works in Arlington is anywhere is fair game for being towed, and it's basically at the discretion because – and this is where it gets into crony capitalism, because these tow truck companies operate under a franchise, much in the same way that you have taxi cab medallions, right? You go and you apply and you have a franchise license from the county. And the county essentially, because the county works it out with the apartments and other folks who have parking lots, that in order for the county has jurisdiction to ticket in private parking lots, not private garages. But the county can go out and as such, because the county enters into this relationship with private property owners, then the tow truck companies can go in and have carte blanche at their discretion,
right,
to go in and tow. And the problem, of course, is that they're much in the same way, Jerry, that privateers, remember, a privateer as opposed to a pirate, a ship would go and get a franchise right from a crown, from either England or France or Spain or whomever, and they could go and attack the ships of other nations, and their incentive to do so was they would get the spoils.
Right.
Now, in Arlington, you don't have to be a captain of a ship. You don't have to go after other people's flags. If you're the owner of a tow truck company, you make your money by going and towing people's cars at your discretion.
You know what? Just to give you a personal story real quick.
Tell my personal story.
And I mean, I have a lot of stories about towing companies and parking issues in the district, in Arlington, in Montgomery County, and I'm sure folks have had these same issues in New York City. Look, I had it in front of my mother's house. I told you the story real quick. Well, I've had this issue everywhere. But the funny thing is, right here in Montgomery County, where I live, there's a gym I go to.
Yes.
Right. And there are signs everywhere, parking for customers only sort of a thing. And there is a tow truck that does rounds around the parking lot.
Yes.
And on a couple of occasions, at least twice, he has been at my car, and I've said, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" He's like, customers only. I said, "I'm working out of the gym." "Oh, sorry." Now, what would have happened if I didn't catch him?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's how they make their mony. That's what they do.
And the thing is, once the car is towed, what are you going to do?
And then
you have to pay.
Hostage. Then it's held hostage. It's exactly right. It is that is exactly right. And so for me, for instance, I had it happen where I was my wife, then girlfriend, was living in Silver Spring. I was living in South Arlington. I don't know who that is. I was living in South Arlington. And let me do this. Sorry, I'm silencing my phone. And I had gone back to my place to go and pick something up. And I was in her car. And I pulled into the 15-minute loading, unloading zone. 15 minutes. Had the flashers on the car. And had run into, and it wasn't my car. It was my then girlfriend's car. Let me actually, there's a greater context here. I know I keep doing this. But the way I learned about this sort of franchise right situation and the weird relationship that the county of Arlington has with the towing companies and the buildings that are out there is I had inherited an ancient station wagon. Those of you who know me know that my first two cars were Chevy station wagons. And you know, they were ancient and they had been driven. And so at one point when I first moved to Arlington, or maybe it was the second year that I was there, my car did not pass its safety inspection. And I did not have the money to go and get it fixed. So the registration lapsed. This is a well-worn tale about registrations lapsing, but that's for another day.
Again, not to go off on tangents, but this is even a broader issue of how these petty, small infractions create outlaws.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, thank you. You get a dinger for that as well. And yes, we all become lawbreakers and scofflaws. And, of course, then fines rack up. And so what happens –
And again, just to link this to not just what happened recently here in Arlington with the ESPN reporter, but also, look, the DOJ report on Ferguson has to do with a lot of this ticketing in order to raise revenue. It just so happened it was disproportionately African American, but the fact of the matter is these traffic offenses become become bigger issues where you're making a new criminal class.
Exactly. And so for me in Arlington, I had gotten several expensive tickets parking in the parking lot of my apartment building, which I found astounding to me. And then I go and I complain to management, and come to find out that this is the relationship that they've entered into with the city county of Arlington, and it includes the possibility of getting towed. And then even though I had a proper parking sticker on that particular car, and they said, well, the thing is that tow trucks don't go into our enclosed garage, so if you want to pay X number of dollars per month to avoid becoming a scofflaw,
Right.
You can garage your car in our enclosed garage. So I was forced to do that, which of course meant that I was losing money that could have gone to paying for my car to be fixed and thus getting registered. So now fast forward, and I want to say, Jerry, so I go in, I'm driving again. Eventually, I had to get rid of that car, so I'm driving my girlfriend's car. I go and pick up the stuff. I come outside. Literally, no more than 5 minutes has passed. I've gone in. I've grabbed what I needed to do. I've used the bathroom, and I've checked my voicemail messages, or actually my answering machine. And I come out.
You went to the bathroom. Maybe it was longer than 5 minutes.
No. Yeah, no. It was a small potty, not big potty. And so I come outside, and there is a guy, and I swear he was from Advantage Towing, the same tow truck company at issue here. And he's getting ready to tow my girlfriend's car. And I said, wait a minute, this is a loading zone. I get into an argument with the guy, and he is not stopping, by the way. He is about to hook this thing up, and he is not going to stop, even though I'm there to move my car. Right. It's one of these situations, for instance, that when a meter maid, lovely Rita meter maid, starts writing a ticket, she can't stop. She's got to continue. Once she writes down your license plate number, she has to issue the ticket to you.
Yeah, once the tow truck guy has you in the process of being hooked, they have video cameras,
Oh, yeah.
And 'cause this has happened to me where I've said to the guy, hey, I'm right here. And he said, oh, sorry, I can't. It's videotaped. I'll get in trouble.
Yes, well, and he'll get in trouble, right? It's not because he'll get in trouble because he's violating some rules. He'll get in trouble with his bosses because he is denying the business however many hundreds of dollars, whatever the towing fee is.
Right.
And so I wound up not only getting into an actual argument with the guy as to what loading zone meant, as he is representing to me, and I, of course...
Now, back up. Stop right there.
Yeah.
This could have been like that ESPN reporter. Here you are talking to someone, trying to explain to him that you are parked in a loading zone because you are loading or unloading.
Yes,
and
it was
the loading zone.
Running in.
And you might actually get a little annoyed and say something like, are you stupid?
Yes.
Now that you said that, but
no.
You can see how the frustration could bubble up.
I was a 20-something, an obnoxious 20-something. I don't remember specifically what I said. I do know that I was arrogant enough at that point that after the guy was gone, I wound up calling the company several times, and I'm pretty sure I got the guy's own cell phone, right, the guy in the truck.
Right.
But the point is, that's exactly it. It is an absurd situation where you do the right thing, right? You're doing the right thing, and you're getting dinged, and it's an expensive ding. And regardless of how much money you're making, she may be making loads of money. She may not be making loads of money. Either way, it's an expensive proposition for someone who's stolen your stuff. Right? It's funny because I remember I did get towed. Now, I've been towed twice, I think. I know it's one of these things where the joke would be I keep saying.
You ever break out of
no.
Break your car out of towing?
No. I was towed in New York City my sophomore year of college, and that was my fault. I just didn't read the signs. My dad's car got towed, and I got towed in a rental car on CEI Business with Jay Rao and Emily Duke during the 2000 convention in Philadelphia.
I was at Fordham once when I was a kid. I I don't know, 20, 21 maybe, and you could drive your car on campus and you could pay $5 or whatever it was, and you could park your car. Now, some folks you get a long-term permit and you can keep your car on campus all the time. But if you bought a ticket for a pass for the day, you could leave it for one night. It was legal for a night. Long story short, I pull in after going food shopping and park my car, pay my ticket, unload my groceries, and we make dinner. We do what we're doing. I go back down because I was going to drive the car back to Jersey. Car is gone. Car's gone.
Yes.
And so I went to the Fordham security. Fordham didn't have police. They had Fordham security. I went and I said my car was stolen.
Exactly. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they asked me the tag, and I didn't know the tag, but I knew the make, the model, everything else, Jersey plates. He said, oh, no, it was towed. I said, towed? Why? I paid my $5. In fact, I had a ticket, I had a receipt, and the ticket was in the car. And he's like, well, sorry, they made a mistake. I said, okay, what do I do? He said, well, go pay the fine and get your car out. I said, what? And I was a college student.
Yes.
The fine was whatever it was. I didn't have it. This is a true story.
Yeah.
This is in the days when you had two sets of keys.
Of course.
No. And I had my set of keys. And I'm not sure if they – you might have had to give the keys to the driving guy. I forget. All I know is I had to find a second set of keys. Long story short, I had a buddy of mine drive me to the lot. I climbed over the fence. True story. Climbed over the fence, got in the car, and I drove it out.
Yeah. See, I've never.
They can't do that anymore. Now, that was back in that was like 1989.
But this is exactly what my dad told me when I got towed the first time in New York. He said, report it stolen, and see what happens. And it turns out I had parked, and it was my fault in that instance. And of course, in New York City, if you get towed in Midtown Manhattan, chances are you're taken over to the impound lot.
Yeah, you can't climb over a fence.
No, it's
my car was taken to, again, it was a private company. It was a gas station with a fence around it. And of course, being the Bronx, there was a lock. The fence was locked in the front, but in the back, someone had made their own way out. So I got in the car, and my intent was to go through the fence, but my buddy Rob was like, "No, Jerry, look right over there." We turned around and pulled right out. No one ever knew.
There you go. That's funny.
So I stole my car back.
Well, that's good, and I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make. The greater point here. Arlington itself creates this situation and creates more of an inherent tension between residents or average citizens and the organs of the state. And
right.
By incentivizing prosecution, it leads to these sort of arbitrary acts. Though in this case, maybe it wasn't so arbitrary. But the problem, of course, being that a car is a very personal piece of property. I can't, you have houses, and obviously houses are very personal, but a car is a very personal thing. It's like that line from Pulp Fiction. You never mess with another guy's ride, right? Vincent is talking about how his car got keyed while it was in storage, and he wishes that he could have been there to witness it. People get very antsy when their cars are messed with. And the idea that your car is taken and held hostage, I have no idea what precipitated this outburst on the part of Britt McHenry. I do know, having been in situations like that before, when you're dealing with folks whose only job is to make money off of your direct misery by taking what's yours, let me reiterate that, and holding on to it until you pay them to get it back. I mean, there's kidnapping, there's extortion, but it's essentially legalized theft and property being held for ransom. And so I can imagine, and you should all imagine, how you would feel being in that situation.
Look, I remember just 3 points here. First point, though, is never lose your head, right? In other words, if something like this happens to you, especially for you and me as Christian gentlemen,
Yes.
we should always behave like Christian gentlemen, regardless if it's in public or private, or if there's a camera on us or not. Number one. Number two, this predatory towing hurts the relationship between the citizens, police, and local government officials. It devastates that relationship, right? I was driving home from you yesterday, and in the middle of the afternoon, and I passed on 270, a major route here in Montgomery County, 3 cars being pulled over by the police. Now, granted, this is not towing, but everyone knows in Montgomery County right now that the county government is short. There is a shortfall. And so Ike Leggett, the county executive, has told his government to go out and make all kinds of mischief. Go and reassess property values. County police, go and give tickets. And you're seeing it. You're seeing people being pulled over who are probably borderline. And they're being pulled over not because they're a danger to themselves or to others or breaking the law, but because the government needs to raise revenue.
Absolutely. Yeah, so drivers in Montgomery County, anybody who has to go into Montgomery County, beware that they are essentially enacting their own version of the Southern Town speed trap behind the sign situation.
Hey, while you're going to break, I had my car towed once at LaGuardia.
Ooh. Where did they
I came home from a trip to wherever I was, came back, my car was gone, and the reason why they towed it was because the 3 days I was away, on day 2, my tags expired.
No!
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
And the funny thing is, when I found out where it was, they would not give me the car because they would not let me drive it with expired tags.
Yes. Oh,
and so I had to have my car towed from LaGuardia back home to New Jersey.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I've been in similar situations. For another day, my friend. Listen, we are up on a break. When we come back, we're going to talk Hillary Rodham Clinton. This is the LangerCast on the Realm Network.
The LangerCast will be back after this.
Hey everybody, get ready for Foodie and the Beast with David and Nikki Nellis. A foodie born and bred, my wife Nikki loves chatting up chefs, dining out, and insider industry buzz.
And my husband David thinks a great meal is nothing but a good burger, a frosty brew, and a check for under $20. Because he is cheap.
Well, maybe so, but foodie married beast anyway, and together we've got the food and wine variety show that has everyone talking.
It's Foodie and the Beast, and we are on now.
Now being served under our shows at realmnetwork.com. Foodie and the Beast, another great new show from the Realm Network. Now, more of the LangerCast with Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers.
Definitely not tight enough, my friend. This is what happens when I turn off the microphone. But in any case, this is the LangerCast. I'm Andrew Langer.
Jerry Rogers.
We are broadcasting separately today. I am in my library at the LangerCast Studios in beautiful Williamsburg, Virginia.
I am at my corner desk here in the family room of the Blue House.
I was debating what...
I tried to go downstairs to my office, but it was too dark down there.
Well, yesterday I was trying to convince Jerry that if we were going to record, we should record outside. It was probably a good thing that we didn't.
Yeah. I'm actually a little comfortable with this because I don't think I really look like that guy.
We all have these images of one another and each other and ourselves. In any case,
I'm asking you, do I look like him?
Do you look like who?
Me, right there.
Oh, you're holding up a picture. Wait a minute.
No, I'm not. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, you look like that guy.
Really? Oh, boy, I need a haircut or something.
Got it. See, I turned it off. That was Naked Eyes, always something there to remind me.
Always something there to remind me.
A cover, by the way, and I can't remember the original band name, but it was.
I didn't know that.
A cover of a big hit in the '60s.
Look at you with all the big information on music today.
Well, I'm pulling it up. I've been going back and forth in terms of the music, all sorts of fun stuff in the jukebox today, I suppose. As it were.
Hey, so I am very excited.
Oh,
very excited to hear the Hillary update theme song.
Well, here we go. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Drum roll, please. Thank you. All right, here we go. You know this one, Jerry?
I do. ELO.
You know the song?
Yeah, ELO.
Yeah, but what's the name of the song? Hold on. It's coming around, I promise. Here we go.
Bad word.
Maybe not. It's Evil Woman by ELO, my friend.
Yes.
All right, so this is our new LangerCast. I don't know, unless we come up with something else. This is what I came up with on the fly. Evil Woman by ELO. But in any case, as these things heat up, even though I still submit that she's not going to be the nominee,
you know what? I'm hoping
we're going to keep talking about it because this campaign has now really begun in earnest. Here we go. Hold on. You think this is the music that goes on in Bill's head when he sees his wife?
Saturday Night Bill? I don't know.
Yes, exactly. He sort of looks over. So, in any case, my friend, we've been talking about doing this. I'm going to turn that off so I can actually see you. But obviously, all sorts of stuff going on as she begins to push out this campaign that isn't a campaign. Actually, I want to preface this with this, Jerry. We need to criticize people on legitimate things, right? What she does, the mistakes she makes, how she has performed in previous jobs, and what she has or has not accomplished in those jobs. I take issue with something that Fox did today, which was their Laura Ingraham segment this morning, in which they played a series of clips from her, and it is a listening tour. I want to underscore that. It's a listening tour of Hillary sort of nodding and smiling when people are talking to her. That's what she's supposed to do on a listening tour.
But I didn't see the Laura Ingraham segment, but let me just ask you this question.
Yes.
If you're listening, then you should be in front of people who are regular people who are telling you about their tax burdens, their regulatory burdens,
yes,
their insurance issues, their concerns about foreign policy. Instead, she has like this super vetted process where the only way to get in front of her is to go through a trial of loyalty.
Yes.
And so what kind of listening tour is it if the only people you're listening to are people who adore you, love you, sycophants?
Well, okay.
This is a sycophant tour.
Okay. Now that is – it's absolutely true that these campaigns now are scripted to the nth degree. I think most folks – I will tell you the most interesting campaign situation, the only time I have ever been a part of a situation in which – and I've got producer Charlie in my lap here. Yes.
Hey, you said scripted, right?
Yes.
You know what? Yes, of course, ostensibly this is true. However, Hillary, I think, spent yesterday with media, I think, 1 minute and 22 seconds.
Oh,
now, contrast that with Marco Rubio, who goes on a Sunday talk show, and he's hit with the question, the most ridiculous question, Senator, do you believe that being gay is a choice?
Yes.
I mean, at least Rubio, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Walker, and the rest put themselves out there to be vetted, to be
of course.
Asked difficult questions, even the most ridiculous questions.
Listen, the only way that Hillary Clinton sort of maintains this momentum is by saying as little as possible. It's absolutely true. And that is by design. Anyway, the point that I was going to make is, audiences get selected based upon there are no sort of random chances. The closest I ever came to witnessing that was and I don't even remember how I got invited to this, but in 1988, the Fieldston Jazz Ensemble was. I know, yes. The Fieldston Jazz Ensemble. Now, Fieldston has great musicians, very accomplished kids playing music, very talented kids playing
music. So where's Fieldston again?
In the Bronx, in Riverdale.
Oh, very good.
But this jazz ensemble was invited to play at a fundraiser for George H.W. Bush in New York City, in Manhattan. And there was, pardon my French, Geraldine, bitching and moaning on the part of the students. And the jazz ensemble director, the band director, to his credit, said to these kids, listen, a gig is a gig. And so these kids all came to this fundraiser for a guy that they didn't support. And it was entirely possible that the president might talk to them. And the president and somebody might challenge them. Now, of course, this is in an age before cell phone cameras, so you're not going to get the same amount of blowback that you might get if some sort of unscripted moment happened today. And maybe that's part of the reason why we don't have these unscripted moments.
You know what? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hold on. But that being said, the issue of this first event where Hillary goes and has lunch with a couple of folks in some podunk town in Iowa, 4 people, one of whom was Joe Biden's chauffeur when he visited Iowa the year before, that is the opposite. I mean, that is the classic Potemkin Village approach. And so I think what you're pointing out is there has to be sort of greater disclosure and honesty among these candidates that we can have scripted events. Look, I've worked in politics. I've worked on campaigns. The best campaigns are the best scripted campaigns, but you need authenticity, and that's what's lacking here. And let me just tell you a story, and it's a quick story. Please.
You saw the memes on Facebook and Twitter and elsewhere, the news, how college students, young adults are into Hillary because they want a woman to be president.
Yes.
And then you ask the question, what do you know about Hillary? And they say things like, well, she was Secretary of State, she was a senator, she cares about children, whatever the response. No one in this age bracket understands that she has a record prior to her being in the Senate.
Yes.
And let me remind you and our listeners of that record. Just one anecdote.
Please.
One anecdote.
It's a great anecdote, I think.
Will illustrate what kind of woman this is. So back in the 90s, the early 90s, after the debacle of the healthcare, Hillary Care effort, there was all kinds of scandals, all kinds of gates, right? There was Filegate, there was Vince Foster Gate, there was all these scandals, and they all had one thing in common. They all went back to Hillary. And so the Bill Clinton's handlers were very concerned about the 1996 presidential run, and they didn't know what to do with Hillary, and they needed to soften her image. And you might not remember this, and our audience might not remember this, but Hillary Clinton went on a news program, an interview with Walter Isaacson, who is now the head of the Aspen Institute.
Yes.
And she talked about how she and Bill were very seriously considering adopting a baby and how excited.
Stop for a second.
All right.
Stop for a second. Because this is, you know what I call this? This is the Joan Crawford strategy. A lot of folks don't know, but the only reason why Joan Crawford adopted Christina Crawford, the author of Mommy Dearest, and her brother Christopher, is to gain favorable publicity for a star sort of in the twilight of her acting years. So Hillary Clinton
Yeah,
They didn't
Hillary
make that
Clinton
politics.
goes and talks to Walter Isaacson and some other media outlets about their hope that they're going to adopt a baby and how great it will be to have a baby in the White House and how they're looking forward to nurturing this child and being parents again. And really, this big announcement of her adopting a child. And then, lo and behold, a couple of months go by or whatever, a couple of weeks, whatever it was, and Bob Dole's numbers were in the toilet.
Yes.
And guess what happened to the baby story? It just disappeared.
Where is it?
No, right.
Nobody
It
knows.
just went, the baby went bye-bye. And it just shows you the length, the depth that Hillary Clinton will go to in her lust for power, in her lust to win. And again, and I hope this Hillary update, I want to have anecdotes like this for each one.
Absolutely.
Because we need to know, again, I said earlier in the show, past is prologue. If you want to know who Hillary is today,
yes,
you need to look at who she was in the 90s. And look, you and I both believe in redemption. All right? But she's never had that moment where she has sought forgiveness or said I'm a different person than she was. And you know, you and I talked about how in the scriptures there's the episode where Jesus walks by the fig tree. There's no fruit, and he curses the fig tree, right? And if you look at that, you think, oh, my goodness, Jesus cursing the fig tree? Out of character, right? But what you do is you have to look at what Jesus did in the totality of Jesus. In what did he say in light of everything else he said? And again, if you know your scripture, you know that the fig tree was used as a metaphor for Israel. And this was an instance where Jesus was going to go into Jerusalem Palm Sunday, be the triumphant Messiah, and then just a turn of the head will be crucified. So the fig tree being withered was symbolic, metaphoric for Israel's heart. The same thing here. We have to judge Hillary not by a few nice sentences in Iowa this week, but in the totality of who Hillary Clinton is.
Well, I think, obviously that goes with every candidate. But I think there's certainly a myopia on the part of certain folks on the left.
Do you think someone in the mainstream media is going to ask Hillary, hey, whatever happened to that baby you wanted to adopt?
Oh, no. Listen, no. The fact is Hillary has been anointed by the press to be the nominee.
Do you think anyone in the media will ask Hillary the question, Hillary, when do you think life begins?
No, but more to the point, what's now, and those are obviously very important questions, Jerry. I think we can look at, much as you look at the totality of Hillary's record, looking at the totality of the media's record vis-a-vis Hillary, those questions are not going to get asked. I mean, if you look at the way the media ignored Benghazi and is largely ignoring the email server issue. Now let me step.
Hillary Clinton said that her email server. Look at this. It's laughable.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton said that her server was protected because they had a personal guard at the house. She said that, right? You're laughing. It's just true. She said this.
I know. Listen. I will. Let me add a caveat here.
No one called her out on that.
Fundamentally, the question becomes: which members of the media are in the tank for Hillary, and which of them are in the tank for the Obama administration? And I say this right because you get the Stephanopouloses of the world who will go to the mat for the Clintons time and time again. But then you get the folks who are beholden to the Obama administration, who are more than willing to do the bidding of Valerie Jarrett, who is working overtime. You've heard the latest, my friend, which is that the New York Post is reporting that Bill de Blasio is...
I know. I posted this on Twitter yesterday.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No. But the point, and my question I then asked was, is this another story that Valerie Jarrett is planting in the media?
Okay, but can I ask you a question?
Please.
Because I think our best segments are when we kind of push back on each other.
Of course.
So I know you think that Hillary, one reason why she might not be the nominee is because the Obamas don't want her to be.
Yes.
Right? But here's the thing. Hillary is the original Alinskyite.
Yes.
And she's the one. In fact, if you look at their pedigree in terms of their radicalism, Hillary is more radical than Obama.
That may be. Well, I mean, in certain ways, right? I mean, it's different. It's a different kind of radicalism. I'm actually not going to. I don't think that there's a race for more radical between the two of them. I think you sort of have different strains of the same thing. This is like saying who was more radical, Trotsky or Stalin, right?
Oh, yeah. If I had the dinger, I'd ding right there.
There you go. I'll ding it.
The funny thing is that thus far, look, the campaign is early. We're in the early, right? This is really early still. But thus far, everything she's done thus far is demonstrably untrue. Well, she only had one parent, a grandparent, who was an immigrant.
Yes.
Right? She knows that you could have more than one email account on different devices.
And more
we know that she emailed her husband hardly ever. We know that putting a personal guard at her house doesn't really guard her server, right?
Yes. But
all these things are untrue.
Most folks know. Folks have seen the pictures of her using multiple devices to answer email. I mean, there's photographic evidence.
This is the woman who talks about Wall Street greed and herself, right, using gangster tactics to get $300,000 a pop for an hour for less than an hour speech.
So, Jerry, let me just sort of bring it back to your question, though, which was about the sort of the originator of the Alinsky tactics. And folks, one of the things that was brought up in Dinesh D'Souza's America 2016, or no, America Imagine a World Without Her, was an extensive review of Hillary Clinton's relationship with Saul Alinsky and some of Saul Alinsky's acolytes. But the point is, Hillary's not in power, and Barack Obama is. And we know that the Obama administration is more than willing to use the organs of state power to punish their enemies and those who disagree it, and to remove them as threats.
Well, the flip side is true for Hillary in the last 4 or 5 years, in that she's apparently, if you read, this new book that's out now, was it Clinton Cash?
Yes.
She used her position at state to benefit those who gave hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation.
This is where I'm going, because it's not just, and who I had lunch with yesterday, and he and I had a long discussion about this.
You're not going to drop a name?
No, I'm not going to drop the name.
Wow.
No. And that lengthy conversation, and he believes that she's going to get the nomination. And when I pushed back on that, and he was like, well, wait a minute. So where are the elements of the crime? And we're talking about the destruction of emails aspect of it. And I pointed out, to me rightly, that you don't need an actual crime to have been committed in order to get somebody indicted. Lord knows we've seen that time and again. But it's not just the emails at this point in time. It is this allegation, right? If you paint the picture that not only Hillary but Huma Abedin was also apparently a failure to disclose, at the very least, a conflict of interest relationship between her position as Hillary Clinton's deputy and then acting as a consultant for State Department contractors, you've got a problem there. And now this allegation that Hillary Clinton was using her office to raise money for the Clinton Foundation.
According to the Schweitzer book that's coming out May 5th or May 4th, she was, while at state, she was soliciting resources and monies for the Clinton Foundation.
Sure.
And we also know from news reports and also from the Schweitzer, right?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I hope I'm saying that right. From this book, that her brother benefited from these deals. The Clintons themselves benefited from these deals. There's all kinds of monkey business here.
Yes. Hugh Rodham? I haven't heard the name Hugh Rodham in...
No, Tony. I think it was Tony. her little brother Tony.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I just remember
Tony got didn't Tony Rodham get a special deal with Haiti to do work in Haiti that will earn him millions of dollars.
Understand, this is part of what was all caught up in the whole. Now, okay, let's also bring this back to crony capitalism, right, Jerry? Because one of the things you and I have talked about is if the government didn't have the ability to transfer vast sums of money or massive opportunities from the government to party X, you wouldn't have these instances of corruption or alleged corruption. This is exactly the same kind of stuff that got our friend Steve Griles, our other person we know, our acquaintance that we know. I'm looking down at you now, so you know who I'm talking about.
I don't.
That brought Gail Norton into that whole shadow.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, I do.
Abramovsky.
I wouldn't call her a friend, but I know who you're talking about.
Call her a friend. I said an acquaintance. We are unfortunately acquainted with this person. But the point is that this ability of the Interior Department to make decisions about things that could make people vast amounts of money, well, this is where these issues came into play. Now we're seeing in the State Department. It was an issue with our friend David Safavian at, I want to say, Transportation or GAO. It was an issue with Horace Cooper at the Department of Labor.
Right. Look, this has been a constant theme on this program. It's also been a theme in IFL's work. It's also been a theme in our writings, and that is.
I do go back to my point that in order for quid pro quo to happen, there has to be a quo along with the quid, right?
Okay.
So it seems to me that if the allegation is correct, there is both quid and quo in the Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin situations, allegedly.
Yeah, and again, this goes back to our theme of big business is not necessarily and is very seldom free market, and when you have big business partnering with big government, it just it creates a circumstance for theft.
Amen.
Stealing from the taxpayers.
No, that is absolutely the case. So in any case, this is good. Let me turn that on. I love this album. One of my favorites.
Joe Jackson. Got it.
We're up on a break. When we come back, before we talk about Iran, Jerry, I've got a very special announcement, some breaking news that I just heard about. But I want to save that for after the break. This is the LangerCast. We will be right back.
The LangerCast will be back after this. There's a shakedown of small businesses underway in this country that threatens this and all of your favorite podcasts. Podcasters are being sued by a company in Texas that's just an empty office. The company seems to only exist for the purpose of suing podcasters and profiting from the out-of-court settlements. The company, Personal Audio, and its owner, Jim Logan, claim to have invented podcasting even though they've never produced a single podcast. In 1996, they patented the idea of putting audio items into a list, a system all podcasters use today. But their idea, which never took off, involved reading magazine articles into a cassette tape long before most people had computers and certainly before we had smartphones. Personal Audio has sued Apple and some of the phone makers for using this system, and sadly, those companies set a precedent of settling out of court. But court settlements would bankrupt most of these very small podcast companies and drive them out of business. America's most successful podcaster, Adam Carolla, has decided to fight back. He's being sued for $3 million, and fighting that in court will cost just over $1.5 million. He's raised just under $500,000 so far, and that's after contributing $50,000 of his own money. Patent trolling, as it's called, has even caught the attention of President Obama, but so far nothing in Washington's been done to stop it. If you'd like to help, and I would urge you to do so, visit my website, buzzburbank.com, and click on the link to help Adam Carolla save his show, this show, and all of your favorite podcasts. And now, more of the LangerCast with Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers.
That's right. This is the LangerCast. I'm Andrew Langer.
I'm Jerry Rogers. Hey, are you going to drop a bomb?
Well, you know something? I didn't even that is more than vaguely ironic, my friend. This is some big news. Hey, actually, before I get to the announcement, I want to say with regards to that promo, which I'm going to reach out to Buzz and talk to him about recutting. So the lawsuit against Adam Carolla has been dropped. Adam Carolla just gave an interview on The Nerdist and talked about it. The fact is that they realized that going after an industry in which you have a bunch of people that take to the microphones and can lambaste folks who are violating property rights and just going after and filing frivolous lawsuits is a bad idea. That being said, the patent troll issue has not gone away. It's something Institute for Liberty and Jerry and I continue to work on. Folks are still being sued on these frivolous lawsuits, and there is some legislation that is being proposed that we're active on. So stay tuned with regards to that. But Jerry, big news out of our friends at the Franklin Center. Obviously, you know the Franklin Center.
I do.
The Franklin Center for Government and Public Integrity. Less than an hour ago, they announced that our good friend of the LangerCast, Erik Telford, has been named president of that organization. So I want to say big congratulations to Blaine Telford, or as it said on his birthday cake, Blaine to Selford. Have you ever heard this story?
No.
Okay. In line with let me just turn that off. In line with all of our discussion in recent weeks about cake and cake decorating and First Amendment and all that. So folks down in Texas, I want to say it was Peggy Venable with AFP Texas or whatever Peggy's doing down there, went to get a cake. And Eric's Twitter handle is Blame Telford because there's a whole backstory to that. So he's at Blame Telford on Twitter. I can say that a few more times if you want. And so she went to get the cake, and it was supposed to say happy birthday at Blame Telford. But the person doing the writing did not understand what she was saying. And I think Peggy even had them spelled it out. And when they came to pick it up, it said at Blaine, Blane, to Selford, Tcelford. And I believe there is also an at Blaine to Selford handle on Twitter. Jerry's going to follow it right now. So big congratulations. I am so proud. Jerry, this guy, Erik Telford, for those of you who don't know, Erik began, he may have begun before Americans for Prosperity. I got to know him when he was doing digital work for AFP. His colleague, my good friend, I am name dropping, Tabitha Hale, was at Freedom Works. Two organizations that supposedly were not supposed to get along with each other, but Erik and Tabitha put aside the organizational differences and worked together to produce some really great work of substance, not the least of which was the very successful Right Online conferences coming up next week. Jerry and I will be there probably on Radio Row. But Erik's been doing work for the Franklin Center, helping to get the Watchdog Wire started. My former podcast partner, Mark Nugent, wrote for Watchdog Wire in Maryland, really setting the standards for state-level and local-level conservative free market limited government journalism. So very well-deserved. I got to tell you, I'm more than a little jealous because he's such a young guy. And Erik, if you're out there listening, we'll make sure we send this over to you. I owe you a fried chicken dinner. Homemade fried chicken dinner. So we need to make that happen. Maybe we'll get Franklin Center to do an event down here in Williamsburg in the cradle of American liberty. But that's that. That was the big announcement. Erik Telford to become president of the Franklin Center.
Slancha, congratulations. Cheers. Hey, you know what? I want to say this because you just mentioned his age. He's a relatively young man, and God bless him.
Yes.
But you know what? You and I had this conversation yesterday because we were talking about Hillary Clinton in the context of age. And I said to you, we talked about how I think that the saying she's too old to run is really beneath us and beneath the conversation, because she's not.
Listen, Reagan said it best. I will not exploit, for the purposes of electoral politics, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Right, but I think, but this is the other side of that. I think it bothers me when I'm reading the New York Times or another mainstream paper, and they'll say, Jerry Rogers, and then comma 46. We are obsessed with age, and I think we should let it go.
Well,
I think age matters less these days. What matters today, your ideas. Are you healthy in mind and body, etc.?
I just point out my Eric's relatively young age to just sort of underscore my envy.
Oh, well, that's one thing.
You're absolutely right, my friend. Insofar as it is a truism that 60 is the new 50, 50 is the new 40. Especially as we skew up adolescence into the middle 20s. And we skew down that sort of as our friends on the Mike O'Mara show used to call it, the douchebag 30s, as that sort of skews upward into the 40s as well. I'm sorry, Geraldine, but you're absolutely right. The concept of age has gotten substantially muddied, and in a good way. I think generally it's as people are living longer.
And also, I do think there's some hypocrisy. I remember several years ago, it's April, it's baseball, and, the Yankees are 6-7, not doing so great. But, they'll be fine, by the way, Yankees. I remember when Bernie Williams, it was his last couple of years, and the Yankees went out and got Lofton, Ken Lofton. Remember Ken Lofton? He played for the Indians anyway. And I remember them saying that they wanted to get Lofton because, his youth, he brings an energy. And he was like 2 or 3 years older than Williams. And it was, the idea of age is always, I think it's a deflection. And I think we should be able to
except for when
criticize Hillary, not based on her age, but based upon her untruthfulness, her stand-on positions, and who she is.
Remember, Jerry, as I watched The Empire Strikes Back over the weekend, Yoda insisted that Luke Skywalker, one of his excuses for not wanting to train Luke was that he was too old to start the training. And that was BS as we know it. So, shifting gears and going to Iran, my friend.
Oh, boy.
All sorts of stuff going on. Now, listen, when last we spoke, actually, I'm not even sure it was when last we spoke. No, it was. When last we spoke, the administration was getting an incredible amount of pushback. I want to set the stage before we talk about the Corker situation. That the administration was getting, rightly so, pushback from anybody with, frankly, half a brain in terms of assessing the situation with Iran. Now, I'm not saying we need to go to war with Iran. I think that would be foolhardy. I do believe in containment. But this idea that we were going to negotiate in good faith, right, and that we could trust them to do what they were being negotiated to, if we were negotiating a decent deal, which there's no indication that we were, right? So as the framework was put together, the blowback was, of course, we said the deal meant one thing. The Iranians were saying the deal meant something else. Meanwhile, there is the debate going up on the Hill, and folks are pushing back. Bob Menendez voices his concerns, his pro-Israel concerns. He finds himself indicted, again, sort of in this Alinsky tactic.
Although, if you're from Jersey, you're not surprised by
No.
Menendez being indicted.
No, Jerry. The point is, you've known for years that Menendez should be indicted, and the only
okay, that is an awesome point. Thank you very much, because that's the missing piece of this, and that is people have said wrongly that he was only indicted because Obama wanted to get him. No, the point is he should have been indicted a long time ago, and there was a waiting period until it was politically expedient.
And more,
is that right?
More to the point, the Obama administration knew, and the Obama sycophants knew for years what was going on at the State Department, but there has been no reason for them to take action. Now there is. This is my point. So yes, so Menendez gets indicted when it's politically expedient. And so as things push forward, as we talk about this, I don't know which to bring up first. I think I got to go directly to this before we talk Corker. The shoe drops, and Putin announces, guess what? Hey, if we're going to open up trade and get rid of the embargo, we're going to sell a boatload, literally a boatload of missiles to Iran, so the U.S. can never enforce the tenets of any sort of agreement.
Right.
Take it away, Jerry.
And I thought one of Hillary's greatest achievements was the reset with Russia.
Well,
what happened there?
They knew her all too well. Where'd you go? You walked away.
Sorry, the landscapers are back.
Oh, I see. I can't hear them. They can't be heard, so you're fine.
All right, we're good.
This is why we had kind of a late start there. But yeah, I mean, this is exactly right. You sort of talk about Hillary's accomplishments was the reset with Russia. But the point is, these sorts of obvious ancillary impacts on relaxing the sanctions on Iran, well, one of them is going to be that, folks can actually sell them weapons, which...
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Please.
Shouldn't one of the constraints put on Iran is that they should renounce terrorism?
Listen, I think, yes, obviously, but
yes.
I think even more...
We can't even get that.
No. We can't get the even more basic, the most...
Even more basic than renouncing terrorism?
Yeah, because I think even more basic than that is, does the state of Israel have a right to exist?
Right, of course.
There's
another thing, too, is the left uses the Nazi analogy, metaphor, way, way too much. I think maybe even on our side, maybe we do. But here's an instance where the Nazi metaphor or analogy works perfectly.
Let's not even say Nazis. Let us merely say, right? Because we're not comparing. This has nothing to do with totalitarian fascism. This has nothing to do with anti-Semitism per se, right? This could be any Germany under any government. It could be Germany under the Kaiser. It could be Germany under the Russians. It could be Germany under whomever. The point is, Neville Chamberlain goes to negotiate in the interregnum. Now, Jerry.
My Nazi reference was that the Iranians want to murder as many Jews as they can.
Yes.
That's the Nazis. They're Islamic Nazis.
Let's set them both aside, right? Because you're talking about sort of global threats. So in Germany, Neville Chamberlain goes over. They have a negotiation. It just happens to be with Hitler and von Ribbentrop and a handful of others. And he extracts this agreement that Germany is going to not do anything bellicose. It isn't going to invade the rest of Europe, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, listen, let's keep in mind that the British people wanted Chamberlain to negotiate this. They were behind him in negotiating this, right? So as we talk about polling data that says the American people want to deal with Iran, they want a deal, but they don't want a deal like the one Neville Chamberlain negotiated with Germany, right? And, again, taking Hitler out of the picture or not mentioning Hitler, not mentioning Nazism. We want a deal that actually is one that is negotiated in good faith, that is actually enforceable, that sort of ensures that Iran is not going to do these bellicose things with its neighbors, that it's not going to fund terrorism, that it's not going to try to destroy any nation, let alone Israel. So what happens in the 30s is Chamberlain goes and negotiates. Churchill, who was roundly reviled, right? Churchill roundly reviled by many people as a kook, as a hardliner, as a hawk, not somebody out of step with what the British people wanted. Churchill sits back there and says, well, I know exactly what's going to happen. And he outlines exactly what Germany wound up doing.
Now, here's the thing,
please,
Andrew. We have no Churchill. Because the Republicans, here's where you bring up Corker now. The Republicans are caving And what they're doing is they're setting up a smoke screen, so to speak, where they can argue against, fight against, use harsh rhetoric against the deal with Iran, but essentially what they voted on gives all the power to Obama.
The analogy, interestingly enough, is with another member of Parliament at the time, Stanley Baldwin, who was also someone who should have known better and was being warned and considered Churchill a kook. I will submit, and I've long said this, he's not, unfortunately, in office. If he were in office, this is not me making a blanket endorsement of Newt Gingrich. But the closest thing we have to someone who was a former member of the legislature who sees these things for what they are and is able to speak eloquently and clearly on them is Newt Gingrich. And I've thought this for a very long time. With the same level of revulsion that Churchill faced from many folks. The point being that Gingrich isn't in power, so he can't speak truth to power. I think you have a hand.
Although as you're saying this, though, I'm thinking of that Lloyd Benson quip during the vice president debate with Quayle, and that is,
"You're no Jack."
I like Gingrich, but Gingrich is no Churchill.
I will disagree with you there. I think there are the similarities between Gingrich and Churchill.
Well, but here's why I say it. He's no Churchill because the Corker bill happened. It was unanimously approved. You have the Republican establishment behind it.
Okay, I think Newt's gone. I mean, Newt is Newt. I don't know what Newt would have said or has said about this.
No, but my point is but even Newt outside of government,
yes,
could be.
I agree with you.
Raising the issue. The fact of the matter is the Corker bill is an attempt to circumvent the Constitution. Period.
Well, now talk about this because you and I both read the Andrew McCarthy piece. I think people need to understand this. It was brought to my attention by some folks who were posting things are not as they seem. Right, the way it used to be, the way it's supposed to be is the Senate votes. It has to vote in favor. It has to get 67 votes in favor of a treaty in order for it to be ratified.
Right.
We knew that this was just going to be a resolution. And because it was unanimous, one thought that Obama sort of recognized that his back was against the wall. What Andrew McCarthy is saying is that that's not the case.
Well, again, not getting into the weeds here, the normal constitutional order to pass an international agreement or treaty is to have a supermajority of 67 votes in the Senate, or it can go through the onerous attempts to be passed by both houses of Congress and be signed by the president to become law of the land, right? And what the Corker bill does, it turns this process, this purposefully difficult process, because we want international treaties to be vetted, and if it's a bad treaty, we don't want it to happen. That's why the founders had the supermajority. And what the Corker bill does, it turns the process, the Constitution, on its head. Instead of the president seeking 67 affirmative votes, it allows it allows for the president to almost win by default, because Republicans or opponents of the bill of the treaty have to go out and they have to find the 67 votes.
All right, so
to
now
disapprove it.
And so almost like clockwork, right? This
But
bizarre,
as you're thinking, just let this sink into our listening audience. The Congress, you know what? This is what kills me about Republicans. They want to run campaigns and raise money from hardworking Americans, saying we're going to take back power from the imperial presidency. We're going to assert the rights of this Congress and other branches of government. And they say these things, but they don't do them.
Yes.
They do not do it. They say one thing and do another.
Well,
and in my mind, the
Jerry,
establishment Republicans are no better than Hillary Clinton.
I think genuinely, Jerry, I think that a lot of these guys simply didn't know what they were voting for.
Well, then shame on them.
And I agree with that.
Shame on them.
Almost worse. So, and as I was about to say, almost like clockwork, right? Almost like clockwork, immediately after this vote takes place, we're forced to dispatch warships to the Gulf in order to intercept Iranian warships carrying weapons to rebels in Yemen. Right? These are the people that we're negotiating with. These are the people that John Kerry says that we can trust to do the right thing. The folks who are taking missiles from the Russians if this deal goes through, and they're abiding by the good faith. Right? One would think that if we're in the midst of a good faith negotiation on a treaty, that they're supposed to gain access to trade and they're supposed to be able to spin up nuclear power plants, that they would at least go ahead and you're right.
And the thing is too, with the Corker bill, look, you hear those in favor of Obama's tactics with Iran. You hear them say, well, look, if it doesn't work, if the agreement doesn't work, Congress still has the hammer of the sanctions. Well, the Corker bill undoes that, because the Corker bill doesn't have the Congress passing legislation to lift sanctions, but rather the sanctions are already lifted, and the Congress would have to find votes to place sanctions.
Yes.
This is an insane. Obama in his wildest dreams could not thought of this scenario.
Yeah, it is. It really turns the whole process on its head in a way that is bizarre and horrifying for the future.
And the thing is, too, is put this in the larger context where Republicans, look, you and I, we are pro-immigration. We're not hung up on if people are emigrating from Ireland or Mexico or Italy or Greece or Africa or wherever. More immigrants, people voting with their feet to come to America is a good thing. Labor is a good thing.
Yes.
More labor, more people, more dynamic thinking, more souls who want to be here. Awesome. The problem is that this president is breaking the law and creating new law in terms of immigration, and this Congress doesn't have the wherewithal. The Republican Party leadership doesn't have the wherewithal to articulate themselves.
Yeah. And it's funny because you bring that up, and it reminds me that I just wanted to touch upon something. Shifting gears for a second, actually shifting gears. We haven't talked, and we're not going to talk about sort of our post-show last week interaction with our good friend Daisy Booker and his sister-in-law Jamie Lee Farrar. But we did get another sort of fan note on, at least I got a fan note on my my professional page from a guy. Now I forgot his name. Pull this guy's name up. Stephen something or other. Hold on for 1 second. I actually want to make sure I get his name right. There's an important point here. If I do say so my damn self. I think it's Stephen Turner.
Well, while you're looking for that, again, the context of the right of center, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, we need to be able to articulate a vision. We need to defend our ideas. And whether it's immigration or whether it's Iran or whether it's religious liberty, whatever the issue is, we lose because we cannot articulate what we believe in. And what happens is you have this Congress just giving all kinds of authority over to the presidency.
So I apparently share a mutual friend with Matt Schlapp. This guy, this is one of Matt Schlapp's friends, our buddy Matt Schlapp over at ACU, Stephen Turner, who got posted a bizarre sort of cherry-picked response about the poorest states being red states, and then mistakenly posted data about Texas that wasn't.
Well, you had said something that is demonstrably true.
Yes.
And that is, you look at where Democrats have full authority, full power, and look at the mess. Detroit, New York, California. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, the point is we're continuing to make friends, and one of the issues that I talked about that's important is the issue of migration, that if states are so screwed up, they're not going to attract people. And in point of fact, they don't attract people.
Right. You know what? But the problem there too is I agree with you. But we're getting to a point where and again, I'm not I don't believe in this class warfare rhetoric. But there is something to the fact that the rich are always fine because they can pick up and move wherever they want. And the poor, they're poor and they have struggles, but they have things like subsidies and other opportunities. It's the middle class that gets stuck. I can't pick up and move out of Montgomery County on a dime because I can't afford to.
Of course.
Period.
Yes.
And so we're getting to a point in this country where this idea, look, again, we are not about class warfare, but we are getting to a point where, my goodness, if you are someone with a couple or 3 or 4 kids, you have a mortgage, and you have a business, you're trapped.
Jerry, we're not about class warfare because we want everybody to be better off.
Right, of course.
We don't want the poor. We don't want to make the rich poorer. We want to make the poor richer.
Right. But, however, the current state of affairs, and both the GOP and the Democrats deserve blame. It's making it more difficult to be an entrepreneur. It's making it more difficult to have a family. Our policies now are anti-business, anti-entrepreneur, anti-family, anti-wealth. I'll say this as we go into break.
Sure.
I think whoever is the Republican nominee, they have to run not just against the last 8 years, but perhaps they have to run against the last 16 years.
I think that's a good point. It's an excellent point. John McCain never distinguished himself from George W. Bush, and so folks rightly saw it as another 4 years of Bush, or another 8 years of Bush. No, Jerry, we are actually we've got to come to a close on this episode. Listen, I'm playing this because I saw the trailer over the weekend, and I don't know the name of it. There's a new movie coming out with John Cusack and Paul Dano, a biopic of Brian Wilson that looks just fantastic.
Awesome. By the way, on a light note.
Yeah.
We've talked about our favorite rock bands, but one of the greatest rock albums, and I know it's almost cliche to say it, but Pet Sounds.
Absolutely.
It's such an awesome album.
And that
for so
is
many different reasons.
An important point that's raised in this movie and talking about Pet Sounds and what it meant down the road. Listen, everybody, thank you as always for tuning in. Tell your friends, please. It's not just important to like the LangerCast page, but please tell your friends about it. Share it. Listening.
Click on and listen.
Yes. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week. Have a great week, everybody. Happy birthday, Madeline, and to everybody else.
Happy birthday, Colleen.
Happy birthday, Colleen.
And Liam's birthday is 1 year old this Thursday.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday, Liam Patrick.
Tis himself.
Everybody, and stay safe.
God only knows what I feel without you. And God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd be without. God only knows what I'd be without.
This has been the LangerCast on the Realm Network.
The preceding presentation was brought to you by the Realm Network.